Study Section 3. Xenophanes of Colophon. Introduction. This study, you will learn about the philosophical thoughts of another great philosopher known as Xenophanes. Xenophanes was a philosophically minded poet who lived all his life committed to theology, poetry, social and religion issues. His philosophical system was quite distinct from those of his contemporaries, which make him standard among his contemporaries. He was also reported to possess a sharp but critical mind, which he used in fashioning out his philosophical thoughts. Learning outcomes for Section 3. When you have studied this section, you should be able to state why Xenophanes is regarded as a monotheist. Describe the reason why Xenophanes is regarded as the destroyer of myth. Describe the philosophy of Xenophanes. About Xenophanes. The life and times of Xenophanes. Xenophanes was born in Colophon, which was not far from Miletus. His exact dates are not known, but historians have put the time he lived around 570 to 478 BC. What is clear about the time he lived is that he was a philosopher that came after Pythagoras and before Heraclitus. Xenophanes fled from Italy around 546 BC due to the invasion of Ionia by the Persians, and this made him to travel so extensively. As he traveled about, he supported himself with the money or gift he made by reciting his own poetry in public and by speaking at banquets. In other words, he moved about making his living as a composer, reciter of poetry, and master of ceremonies in aristocratic houses. Xenophanes' views on religion. Xenophanes was renowned for his criticism against the ways the earliest poets had presented the Greek gods. The earliest poets like Homer and Hesiod had given the impression that the Greek gods behaved like men and sometimes engaged themselves in activities of men like adultery, deception, robbery, and so on. Xenophanes attacked these claims by such poets as Homer and Hesiod and argued that the Greek idea of gods came from the way the Greeks perceived the world around them. He pointed out that a true God needn't be like man. If gods be like men, then different people would see gods or gods differently. That is why he said that if lions or oxen could paint with their hands, lion would paint God as lion and oxen as ox. He believed that this will lead to having as many gods as there are many people, races. He therefore believed in the existence of a single God, who is the greatest among gods and men. Xenophanes had a conception of God who does not think the same way as men and is in control of everything without moving from side to side. This God is divine and immovable, and yet can move anything by the force of the Spirit. Xenophanes has been called the destroyer of myth because he criticized the theological myths that were popular among the Greeks of his time. He is perhaps regarded as a philosopher to reckon with due to his rational theology, which we have discussed above. Xenophanes also believed that wise men or people with great wisdom, philosophers, should be respected in society far more than any group or set of men. For instance, he believed that wisdom is superior to brute force or physical skill, and that society shouldn't praise or commend people who win games, races, and so on. For him, these people, athletes, have only demonstrated physical skills, which is inferior to wisdom. Xenophanes' view on knowledge. Xenophane's contribution to the nature of knowledge is also very important. In fact, some scholars have argued that what we call epistemology, a branch of philosophy dealing with how we acquire knowledge, actually started with Xenophanes. He is therefore said to be the first philosopher to make important remark about the nature of knowledge. He once said that if God hadn't made yellow honey, men would think that figs were much sweeter. Here, Xenophanes is pointing out that sense perception is relative. Therefore, what we consider sweet or heavy or tall may depend on our experience of what is contrast with it. He went further to show a distinction between knowledge and opinion. According to him, men can't have a perfect knowledge of things, but they can achieve a close approximation of truth through careful investigation. Tip: Xenophanes' view on knowledge. In the philosophy of Xenophanes, the notion of criticism essentially featured, but such criticism is directed at mythical thinking. It is, however, important to note that Xenophanes was focused on religion and human knowledge. The understanding of the existence of God offered by Xenophanes is monotheistic. Xenophanes pointed out that perception is relative by distinguishing between knowledge and opinion. Summary of Study Section 3. In Section 3, you have learnt that 1. Xenophanes, though a poet and an orator, made significant contributions to the discourse of philosophy. 2. Xenophanes attacked the claims by such poets as Homer and Hesiod on the nature of the gods, and argued that the Greek idea of gods came from the way the Greeks perceived the world around them. 3. Xenophanes claims that perception is relative because people observe and view the world differently. End of Study Section 3. Thanks for listening.